Have you ever wondered what it would be like if MaPhilIndo, that's Malaysia, the Philippines and Indonesia, returned to their past states? Let's embark on a journey back in time, exploring the rich and diverse histories of these three Southeast Asian nations. Each of these nations, though geographically close, have unique pasts, filled with pivotal moments that have shaped their identities today. In the heart of Southeast Asia, Malaysia's history is a colorful tapestry woven from native cultures and foreign influences. From the early Malacca Sultanate, a hub of trade and melting pot of cultures, through the period of European colonial rule, to the fight for independence and formation of a multicultural nation, Malaysia's past is as diverse as its landscape. Neighboring Malaysia, the Philippines' past is a kaleidoscope of change. Ancient tribal societies gave way to the influence of trade and Islam before a period of Spanish and American colonization, shaping the nation into a unique blend of East and West. The Philippines' journey to independence was marked by the struggle to maintain its rich cultural heritage while navigating the complexities of foreign rule. Let's not forget Indonesia, the world's largest archipelago. Its history is marked by the rise and fall of powerful kingdoms, the age of trade and the spread of Islam, the era of Dutch colonial rule and the eventual struggle for independence. Indonesia's past tells a story of resilience and cultural preservation against the backdrop of changing powers. Each of these nations, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia, hold a unique place in the annals of history. Their pasts are marked by periods of trade and cultural exchange, colonial rule, struggle for independence, and the continuous shaping of their national identities. Imagine if we could rewind time. What would these nations look like if they reverted to their past states? How would their cultural, political, and economic landscapes change? And most importantly, how would their people respond to such a shift? So what would it be like if these nations reverted to their past states? Let's delve deeper. How would the cultures of Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia look like if they returned to their past states? Let's embark on a fascinating journey through time, back to the days when the cultures of these three countries were in their purest forms. Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia, collectively known as MaPhilIndo, are home to a rich tapestry of cultures, each more diverse and vibrant than the last. Imagine a world where the traditional cultures of MaPhilIndo, untouched by modern influences, are alive and thriving. In the heart of Malaysia, we would find a society deeply rooted in traditional Malay culture, where the indigenous customs, arts, and languages flourish. Think of the time-honored art of wayang kulit, the shadow puppet theater, and the rhythmic beats of the gendang drum echoing through the night. In the Philippines, the cultural landscape would be shaped by a myriad of ethnic groups, each with their unique traditions, languages, and arts. Picture the colorful festivals like Ati-Atihan, the hypnotic rhythm of the kulintang gongs, and the graceful movements of the tinikling dance. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, we would witness a culture deeply influenced by ancient Hindu-Buddhist traditions. Imagine the grandeur of the Ramayana ballet, the resonating sound of the gamelan orchestra, and the intricate art of batik painting. However, the cultures of MaPhilIndo have not remained static. Over centuries, colonial powers have left their indelible imprints, shaping and reshaping these cultures. The Spanish influence on Filipino language and religion, the British colonial impact on Malaysian law and governance, and the Dutch imprint on Indonesian architecture and infrastructure have all intertwined with the native cultures, creating the rich cultural tapestry we see today. So, what if we could revert back to the traditional cultures of MaPhilIndo? The result would indeed be a vibrant and colorful spectacle of traditions, languages, and arts, harking back to an era unscathed by external influences. Cultural reversion would indeed be a colorful spectacle, wouldn't it? But what about the political landscape? What would the political implications be if MaPhilIndo returned to their past states? Imagine a world where the political landscapes of Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia revert to their historical roots. Let's delve into the past to understand what that might look like. In the bygone eras, these regions were not single entities, but a patchwork of sultanates, kingdoms, and tribal communities. Each had its own rulers, governance styles, and political systems, which were often drastically different from each other. Malaysia, for instance, was a collection of sultanates, each ruled by a sultan who held absolute power. If we were to return to this system, the country would be divided into multiple smaller entities, each with its own leader. This could potentially lead to competition and maybe even conflict among the different sultanates. The Philippines, on the other hand, was made up of numerous tribal communities and kingdoms before the arrival of the Spanish. A return to this political structure would mean a significant decentralization of power, with local tribal leaders holding sway. This could foster a greater sense of community and local autonomy, but could also create challenges in terms of national unity and cohesion. Indonesia's political past was a complex mix of Hindu-Buddhist kingdoms, Islamic sultanates, and tribal societies. A return to this past would mean a highly diverse political landscape with a multitude of rulers and governance styles. This diversity could potentially lead to a rich tapestry of political thought and action, but it could also create instability and uncertainty. A return to these past political systems could indeed have profound implications. It could lead to greater local autonomy and a more diverse political landscape, but it could also result in fragmentation, competition, and potential instability. Of course, we must remember that these historical political systems evolved in a very different time and context. The world today is vastly different, and it's unclear how these past political structures would fare in the modern world. A return to past political systems could indeed have profound implications. But what about the economy? What would the economic landscapes of MaPhilIndo look like if they returned to their past states? This is a question that invites us to dive deep into the economic histories of Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia. Let's start with Malaysia. In the past, Malaysia's economy was heavily reliant on the production of raw materials, with tin, rubber, and palm oil being the primary exports. Fast forward to the present, and we see a vibrant, diverse economy with a strong emphasis on technology, finance, and tourism. If we were to revert back to the past, Malaysia could potentially lose this economic diversity and become reliant on a handful of commodities once again. Moving over to the Philippines, we see a similar narrative. The Philippines was once a predominantly agricultural economy, with rice, abaca, and coconut products being the key exports. Over time, it has evolved into a service-based economy, with a strong emphasis on outsourcing, tourism, and remittances from overseas workers. A return to the past could see a significant reduction in these sectors, impacting job opportunities and economic stability. Indonesia, the largest economy in Southeast Asia, was once a major player in the spice trade. It was the world's largest producer of nutmeg and cloves, and these spices were its key exports. Today, Indonesia's economy is diversified, with petroleum, textiles, automotive, and electrical appliances being among the top industries. A reversion could mean a return to an economy dominated by the spice trade, potentially limiting its economic growth. The potential economic repercussions of such a reversion could be significant. These countries could see a decline in economic diversity, reduced global competitiveness, and potential job losses. There could also be impacts on trade, with these countries potentially becoming more reliant on exporting a limited range of commodities. However, it's not all doom and gloom. On the flip side, a return to past industries could also mean a resurgence in traditional skills and crafts, a renewed focus on sustainable farming practices, and perhaps even a renaissance in the global spice trade. An economic reversion could indeed be a game changer, but what about the social fabric? What would the social fabric of MaPhilIndo look like if they returned to their past states? Imagine a tapestry woven with threads of tradition, cultural norms, and social structures. For Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia, this tapestry was spun from a rich history of tribal societies, kingdoms, and colonial influences. In the past, these societies were predominantly communal. People lived in tight-knit communities where the well-being of the group often took precedence over individual desires. Harmony and cooperation were highly valued, a stark contrast to the individualistic cultures we see in many parts of the world today. What if we were to unravel this modern tapestry and reweave it using the threads of the past? Could we see a return to these communal societies, perhaps? We might see a resurgence of traditional arts, languages and customs, a rekindling of community spirit, and a greater emphasis on collective well-being. Social hierarchies could shift as respect for elders and community leaders becomes paramount once again. However, it's not all rosy retrospection. The past was also marked by strict social norms and limitations on personal freedoms. Would these return too? Would the progress we've made in areas like gender equality and human rights be undone? A return to past social structures could indeed change the face of MaPhilIndo. But what about the overall implications? So what would be the overall implications if MaPhilIndo returned to their past states? The cultural, political, economic and social landscapes of Malaysia, Philippines and Indonesia would undergo significant transformations as we've explored. The echoes of the past would reverberate through the present, reshaping society and governance, stirring economies and rekindling lost traditions. The past, as they say, is a different country, but isn't it fascinating to imagine what could happen if we could revisit it? Subscribe for more amazing content and keep wondering.
You have questions in your soul, ready to learn. In every path, hope will be within reach. Explore the kingdom of knowledge and dreams. The melody of effort will